Welcome to this lecture. So this is the very last theoretical lecture before we can start getting our hands dirty in the AWS console. So this lecture is on Identity Access Management. It's often referred to as IAM. You might be wondering what those 101s mean. Basically in Australian universities, as well as some British and American institutions, when you're learning a new topic, it's, accounting 101 or, engineering 101. So Identity Access Management 101 means that this is an introductory topic to identity access management. So what is IAM? Well, basically, IAM allows you to manage users and their level of access to the AWS console. And it's really important to understand IAM and how it works, both for the exam and for administrating a company's AWS account in real life. Basically, if you're going to use AWS, you need to understand IAM, because IAM allows you to set up users, groups, permissions, and roles, and basically allows you to grant access to different parts of the AWS platform. So Identity Access Management offers the following features. It gives you centralized control of your AWS account. It gives you shared access to your AWS account. It gives you granular permissions. So you can say, okay, I want people to be able to access this service, but I don't want people to be able to access that service. It gives you identity federation. What do we mean by that? Well, it just means that you can use Active Directory or Facebook or LinkedIn with Identity Access Management. So potentially your users could log into the AWS console using the same username and password that they use to log into their Windows PCs. So that's just using Active Directory. Or it could mean that your end users, let's say you have developed a mobile game or something and it's storing information on AWS, they can do that using their Facebook credentials or their LinkedIn credentials, etc. IAM also gives you multi-factor authentication. This means that when you're logging in to the AWS Management Console, you need a username, a password, and then a special code in order to log in. And then it also provides temporary access for users or devices and services where necessary. And a good example of that, again, is if someone's using a mobile phone app and they're storing data in your AWS account, you only want them to be able to do that when they're using the app itself. So it's temporary access. It also allows you to set up your own password rotation policy. So you may want your users to, rotate their passwords every 3 months or every 3 weeks, entirely up to you. And it integrates with many different AWS services, and it supports PCI DSS compliance. So PCI DSS compliance just is basically a compliant framework that if you're taking credit card details, you need to be compliant with the framework. So IAM supports PCI DSS. So we're going to learn some key terminology for IAMs, really 4 key terms that we need to learn. So one is users, and this is just simply end users such as people, employees of an organization, etc. We then have groups. So this is a collection of users. So each user in the group will inherit the permissions of the group. So you might have a group that is able to access S3, and you might have another group that's able to access EC2. If so long as that user is in that group, that user will inherit the permissions of the group. We then have policies. Policies are made up of these things called documents, policy documents, and these documents are formatted in JSON, so JavaScript Object Notation Language, and I'll show you what that looks like later on. And it basically gives you permissions as to what a user, group, or role is able to do. So policies are your permissions. And then roles are basically you create a role and you assign them to a AWS resource. A role is a way of allowing one part of AWS to do something with another part. So you might give a virtual machine inside AWS the ability to write files to S3, which is a type of storage within AWS. We're going to have a look at that in the EC2 section of the course, so that is coming up. So what is the best way to learn IAM? Well, like anything with AWS, the best way to learn is by getting your hands dirty. So that's the end of this lecture. If you've got the time, please join me in the next lecture where we're going to log into the AWS console. If you have any questions, please let me know. If not, feel free to move on to the next lecture. Thank you.